Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm Chris Holt, and today I'm going to talk to you about cars that you can now legally import into the US as of 2020. So the thing is cars that are legally imported into the US are cars that haven't been able to be sold in the US previously due to some restrictions, but now that they are 25 years or older can legally be imported into the US. So the cars that I'm going to put on this list, I'm going to try and do my best to have these cars be 25 years old and none newer for sure, and I'm going to try and do my best to keep it to just those 25 years old. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so first up on the list is going to be the BMW M3, the E36. So I know you're going to start saying, well Chris, there is a BMW E36 M3 sold in the US. Well, that is true, but the European spec BMW M3 is miles better than the E36 M3 that we got here in the States. Even though people in the US still swear by the E36 M3, what they got in Europe was so much better. So starting 2020, you can import these into the US. What they got that the US didn't get, even though they both got a 3-liter inline-6 mated with a 5-speed manual transmission, the European spec got 286 horsepower and the US only got 240. Now that's just the tip of the iceberg. The European spec was so much better, and the reason that they got all that extra power was some revised vanos, and they got individual throttle bodies, something you see only on high-end race cars and stuff like that. So that car is just so much better than the US's version. That's why it made a spot on this list. So definitely, guys, go ahead and try and get yourself one of those imported pretty cool cars. Now number 2 on this list is kind of an obvious one. It's the Nissan GTR R33. Now, I know this might be controversial, and I've seen all of them, the 32, 33, 34, and 35. But in my opinion, the R33 GTR is the coolest looking of them all. Yes, I know it's probably the softest and all that, probably the least desirable, but for me that's almost what makes it the most desirable, as people will have to import these into the US. We can't just go to our dealership and buy one. They are actually going to probably become one of the rarest ones here in the US. I live in Seattle, which is really close to Canada, so there's quite a few 32s, 33s, and 34s that come down to a bunch of shows here in Seattle. But for me, I think the 33s are the coolest. Definitely the rarest ones. I've only seen 2 in person in Seattle, where I think I've seen 6 or 7 34s and a slew of R32 GTRs. And I know people are going to say, well, the 33 is kind of the mix between the 34 and 32. The 32 being the lightest, probably most, visceral driving experience, and the 34 being a really technical driving experience. And the 33 just being kind of the awkward middle child. But for me, I think it's the best looking and the best sounding. It got a lot of features that the 34 had and is really underappreciated. But honestly, it's one of those cars that, we're lucky to have now legally available here in the US. Alright, name 2 rally cars. I bet you I can tell you one of the 2 that you're going to say. You're going to say the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, and your other one was probably a Subaru WRX. But as far as the Evo goes, in 1995, the world was announced to the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 3. Well, not really the world, because the US, we didn't get it. But now in 2020, we can get the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. Now, it's obviously one of the start of the greatest series of cars out there. Unfortunately, the Evo 10 was the last that they've come out with, at least so far. But the Evo 3 was the start of a lot of the cult following behind the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo name. Also, one thing that was really cool about the Evo 3 that started off in 1995 was the big spoiler. Now, every generation after that, the cars were known for having their big flashy spoilers. And on the Evo 3, it was no exception. Definitely a car that, you look at it and you know exactly what it is. Whether you're a car enthusiast or not, you know that the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 3 means business. That's why you gotta go import one today to the US, pick one up, and go rip her around in the woods. Alright, this next car on our list kind of came to the US, but not exactly. So in the US, we got a left-hand drive one, and in other parts of the world, you get the right-hand drive version. What car am I talking about, of course? I'm talking about the Acura Integra Type R, or as the rest of the world got it, the Honda Integra Type R. Now, we all know that Acura is Honda's American luxury car brand, but throughout the rest of the world it was badged as the Honda Integra Type R. Now, I know it would probably be less expensive to go out and buy an Acura Integra Type R, but badge it as a Honda, and people do that. But in 1995, the Honda Integra Type R was out, and you today can import a 2020 Honda Integra Type R to the US, not having to rebadge it. Your VIN will say Honda Integra Type R. It's one of those really cool cars as it's known for its lightweight performance with a really high revving engine, and one of the first models to offer, or to at least be known for, VTEC. It's a really nice car, really cool, lightweight, stripped out version, really great to tackle for autocross or whatever you want, but definitely a recommendation on my list to import into 2020. That's the Honda Integra Type R. The next car on my list is going to be the 1995 Porsche 911 GT2. Now this is one of the craziest Porsches out there. Also one of the last air-cooled Porsches there, which has a 3.6 twin-turbo flat 6, which is crazy. It produces 430 horsepower, made it to a 6-speed manual. And for 1995, this was crazy. Now, it also has factory wide-body kit on it, and it's one of the coolest Porsches if you ask me. To this day, it's one of the best-looking Porsches out there. Up there with the Carrera GT, and maybe even the 918. But this car is quintessential Porsche. Big wide fender flares, big wings in the back, stripped out on the inside, manual car. Now all this is such a cool car, but you're going to have to bring your wallet for it. In 2016, one of these sold for a cool $2.4 million. So, you know, if you're making minimum wage or just above that, this car is definitely not in your future. But for those that want to buy one, and maybe use it as an asset, definitely not a bad choice for this one. They came in very limited numbers, and they're continuing the GT2 as in the GT2 RS here during these last few years. Definitely a car that I would recommend. This is one of the most badass cars, and definitely one of the most expensive that you can import today. Alright, this next vehicle on this list was sold exclusively in Japan, so unfortunately no one in the rest of the world got it. But now that it's 2020, these 1995s can be imported into the US. So what car am I talking about? If you squint hard enough, you might think it's an H1 Hummer, but it's what we call a Toyota Mega Cruiser, powered by an inline-4 diesel motor with tons of low-end torque. It was built as police use and fire use for the Japanese. One of the really craziest things, it looks exactly like a Hummer H1 from the side. It's one of those that even the name, Mega Cruiser, just sounds so brutish, kind of what the H1 is lacking in its name. One of those just crazy outlandish cars that I just need one day in my garage. And I would recommend it for you guys too if you have a little cha-ching in your pocket. Definitely go ahead and import one of these now that they're legal in 2020. Alright guys, I apologize about this one. I'm probably going to get the name wrong. I'm not the best at pronouncing it. But this one is the 1995 Mitsubishi Pajero Mini. And it's just under 130 inches. But get this, it's literally like an SUV. And it's like, it's really not that wide. It's 55 inches wide. And they're like 2 feet shorter and 13 inches narrower than a Mazda Miata. Like, this car is tiny. It's a K car in Japan, but it's actually kind of cool because it's based on a big 4-door SUV that was sold over there. So you guys gotta go ahead and pick up one of these cars. It's one of those that you could drive every day, not worry about reliability, and it's just kind of a funny, cool little car. I figured I'd throw this one in there for you guys that have stayed at the end. Thanks so much. You know, if you like my list, please leave a like. But yeah, the Nissan or the Mitsubishi Pajero Mini, I think is just one of those really cool, almost too good to be true type of cars out there. Now, it's not going to be the fastest, it's not going to be, you know, the craziest or anything like that, but it being an off-road SUV and super small and light, I bet you these things will go really far. It's like the Jimneys and the Geo Trackers and the Sidekicks and stuff like that just go miles past Jeeps and stuff because of how small and light they are. I bet you this would even outdo those. So that's why this one makes it at the last spot on my list. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing my top 7 cars that you can import into the US into 2020. If I missed any, let me know in the comments down below. And like always, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I do really appreciate it. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm trying to keep up to that. So definitely stay tuned for more content. Like I say, consider hitting that subscribe button. And I really look forward to seeing you guys next video.